Support for this episode comes from Dexcom. Diabetes doesn't always have to interrupt your day. Dexcom G7, a continuous glucose monitoring system, sends your glucose numbers to your phone or receiver. Know where you are and where you're headed without finger sticks and without interruptions. Dexcom G7 is the most accurate CGM, and it's covered by Medicare. Learn more, go to diabetes-connections.com and click on the Dexcom logo.
This is Diabetes Connections with Stacey Sims.
This week, we're going to get an update from Dexcom. I'm talking to the Chief Operating Officer about everything from their soon-to-be-launched CGM for people with Type 2, that's called Stelo, to interoperability, connectivity, and lots of your questions about G6, G7, and beyond. This podcast is not intended as medical advice. If you have those kinds of questions, please contact your healthcare provider. Welcome to another week of the show. You know we aim to educate and inspire about diabetes with a focus on people who use insulin. You may know that I've started another podcast called Diabetes Connections Type 2, aimed at people who do not use insulin. And I'll be honest, that's where I thought I was going to put this interview. But after talking to Jake and getting your questions, I think this is one of those interviews that works well on both shows. So we do start out talking about Stelo, but I got into lots more topics with him and I was able to bring him a lot of your questions as well. So before we get to that, registration for Mom's Night Out Chicago is open. This event is coming up April 12th and 13th. This is a unique event for moms of children with diabetes. It is a combination of information and humor and community and cocktails. There's nothing else like it out there. And I am so excited to be able to do this. Chicago will be our 5th Mom's Night Out. We're going next to Denver and Philadelphia in the fall. Much more information at diabetes-connections.com. Just click on the Mom's Night Out tab and get on the interest list for those fall events or for 2025 cities. If you are new around here, which tends to happen when we talk to Dexcom or any of the big tech companies, quick disclaimer, you have already heard a Dexcom ad. I do accept money for advertising here on the show, but the interview you're about to hear is separate. My agreement with my sponsors covers the ads. It does not cover the content. I am sure longtime listeners get tired of hearing this, but my background is in news, and it's really important to me to mention this every time we talk to somebody on the show who is also a sponsor of the show. And my guest is Dexcom Chief Operating Officer Jake Leach. He's been at Dexcom since 2004. So he has seen just about every development the company has made. And we have talked many, many times before with Jake and with Dexcom. And I'm going to link up our Dexcom interview episodes in the show notes if you are interested in hearing some of the history here. We weren't by any means the earliest adopters of Dexcom. And my son started using the G4 Platinum Pediatric in 2013. All right, well, my most recent chat with Jake Leach right after this. When you're deciding on a brand of insulin pump, there are a lot of things to think about, especially if you've never used a pump before. It can seem overwhelming. There are a lot of choices, and you want to make the right decision. That's why I'm so excited to tell you about Omnipod 5. Curious about trying an insulin pump or seeing what life without tubes is all about? Unlike traditional tubed pumps, you can try Omnipod without being locked into a 4-year contract. You might even be eligible for a free trial. Go to diabetes-connections.com and click on the Omnipod logo for full safety risk information and free trial terms and conditions. Also visit omnipod.com/diabetesconnections. Jake Leach, welcome back. Always so great to talk to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. It's great to be here, Stacey.
Yeah, so let's just jump in and I want to start talking about Stelo.
Yeah.
I was in the room at ADA when you all announced this. Pretty exciting stuff. A CGM made and meant for people with type 2 who do not use insulin. Can you bring us up to date first with where we are in the process in terms of availability or approval or anything like that?
Sure, absolutely. So we're incredibly excited about this brand new product, and we plan to launch it this summer. It's currently under review at the FDA. We filed it at the end of last year, and so we're going through that review process. Things are looking great. We're hoping for a quick approval and be able to get it out this summer. You mentioned it. So the product's really specifically designed for a large group of people that have diabetes They don't treat their diabetes with insulin, so that there's not great coverage today, insurance-wise, for this group, but they really will significantly benefit from using CGM. And there's some coverage, but not much. And so what we decided to do is let's build a CGM, one that's specifically designed for them, meets their needs. It doesn't have the hypoglycemia protection components of G7, but it has real-time CGM data. And it's really a whole redesigned mobile experience around the important journey of taking someone along, learning about glucose, how it changes, and how they can make improvements.
Knowing that when things are in front of the FDA, quite often it limits what you can say. So with that caveat, I'm going to ask you a bunch of stuff and
Sure.
We'll see what we can do. But I am curious, what does make this different? And I want to talk about the mobile app and the software in a moment. Is there a difference in terms of hardware when you're talking about someone who doesn't titrate insulin, or is it basically a G7?
So the hardware platform, the wearable, the insertion device, all that, it's the G7 technology. So it's the same level of accuracy, reliability, same ease of use of the sensor insertion, same wear experience, except Stelo is extending sensor wear out to 15 days. But it is basically that same hardware platform. Really important for performance. Accuracy and reliability is important whether you're taking insulin or not. You want to know what glucose is. One of the conversations I was recently having was around someone who didn't have diabetes and was using a CGM and actually thought they maybe have a metabolic condition because their sensor wasn't very accurate. And I said, well, first get a G7, try that. Don't use another one, and wear it and see what the readings look like. And so we don't want anybody thinking that they have a metabolic disorder because the sensor is inaccurate. So we really focus on reliability, accuracy as a cornerstone of everything we do for CGMs. And we're going to continue to drive that. We are the most accurate sensor available, and we're not stopping here.
In terms of the software, then, I assume it's in how you are showing the person the readings that makes the biggest difference?
There's a difference in the way that the user interface shows up. They are real-time readings. We do feel that that's important. The numbers are there. But with Stelo, it's less about alerts, alarms, and it's more around connecting the dots between different kind of choices, behavior. It's really around diet. That's the biggest component, is just helping people understand how different foods impact their glucose. Many of this population, less than half of them are hitting the ADA goals of, 70% time in range and, A1C less than 7. So less than half of folks are achieving that. A lot of people aren't, measuring their glucose. They haven't monitored their glucose. They don't know what it does. So this is an amazing opportunity to give them kind of a window into their glucose control. And everyone I've talked to that's ever tried a CGM learns all kinds of things about their diet and how it impacts their glucose. And so that's really what we want to do with this product, is help them. So the data display is different. The onboarding is different. There's some simplicity there because you're not setting up the different alerts and thresholds and alarms and those things. But it's also, in the back end in terms of the way that notifications will work and the way that people will be notified of things will be different. The first product is simple and designed to kind of get into this population of users and start to basically innovate. We've got a pipeline of improvements we're going to bring to the product rapidly over time. It's one of the reasons we've been investing so much in our software team capability for both G7, Dexcom One, and Stelo to be able to rapidly innovate. So we're going to learn some things as well. We anticipate our users are going to give us lots of great feedback that we're going to incorporate back into the device and really feel that this could impact people's ability to really meet their goals and hit their targets.
I'm trying to figure out, when you say the notifications are different, my audience is really familiar with Dexcom notifications, alerts, alarms, and how you can set them. What notifications would somebody who is not using insulin benefit from? What are you going to show them?
Without getting into too much detail about it, the product and the way it's going to be embodied, it's about notifying around glucose excursions that are high for periods of time. We're not alerting you saying, hey, you need to take insulin. Different mindset, right? It's not like, hey, you've been high. It's like our delayed high alert that we have in G7. You've been high for over an hour above your threshold, and then we alert you and, okay, you need to take a treatment. This is totally different. It's like trying to notify them. I think the real time in the moment is important around understanding and remembering, okay, this is what the meal I had was, or this is the activity I did. This is what happened to my glucose. So just trying to help them on that journey of understanding and learning, because there's so much about food and diet that we don't understand until you start seeing, real-time data.
And I know you said, I don't want too much detail. You can't give us enough detail. Jake, feel free. Any little detail, any crumb you want to give us, we're happy to take. But I have a couple of very close friends and relatives who are type 2 and do not use insulin, and they are using CGM. Most of them look at it and say, oh my God, I eat an apple, I go up. I eat a bagel, I go up. I didn't realize these things were happening. And then 2 months later, they know that when they eat certain foods, certain things happen. And they're not looking at it 100 times a day like they were. Listen, I am not an endocrinologist. I'm not a medical professional in any way, shape, or form. I imagine it would be great if long-term people kept them on for longer. But is there going to be more education that goes along with something like this? Because I think what's going to happen is, from where I sit and the people I know who use it just very anecdotally, is this is really interesting. And then, 2 months later, I'm good. And maybe if my doctor changes my medication, I'll put it back on. Do you really see people using this continuously over a long period of time?
I do. I think there's going to be a lot of different use cases. This is a pretty large group of people that their diabetes are at different stages. Treatment, is different. But, our goal is to make the product extremely engaging so that there's value being created continuously. One of the things that I've seen is that you're absolutely right. Like, there's so much learning that goes on when you first start wearing a CGM. You learn about how different fruit spikes, how different meal compositions in terms of how much protein, carbs, fat are in the order in which you eat things. That all impacts overall glucose excursions and average glucose over time. And so there's a lot of learning. But then there's also kind of the reinforcement of positive behaviors and positive decisions that people like to see that they're doing well and that they're continuing to do well, and do more of that. And so I do think there's a component around it that is going to be continuous, where we do see, you mentioned, there are many people that have diabetes, aren't taking insulin, but are today using CGMs. We actually had published a paper at ADA around 7,200 of our current users that started on CGM, are not taking insulin, were able to get access to CGM. And we showed that at the start of that, none of them were hitting the 70% time in range. And then in just 3 months, almost 40% of them had gotten themselves into a time in range of 70%. So just in 3 months, significant ability to make a difference in their diabetes. We feel like Stelo is a great product for more and more people to be able to make those improvements and those enhancements. So, but we'll see. I mean, we're going to learn. We're going to get it out there. People are going to have access to it, and can't wait to get it in the hands of users.
And before we move on to some other questions I have about the other product lines, in terms of cost, right now, Medicare covers a CGM for people with type 2 if they use insulin or if they have a lot of low blood sugars, to put it very simply. I know that there are other health insurers, private and even some government ones, that will cover a CGM if you're not using insulin. I assume you're working with payers to try to make this happen, because boy, that's a tough one for people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the things about Stelo is we're starting it off as a cash pay product, because there isn't, as you mentioned, there isn't coverage established yet. But we do, it's going to be competitive and affordable. We want it to be as affordable as possible for as many people as possible. That being said, over time, we absolutely feel like this group should have reimbursement for CGM. The benefits that CGM can provide, the dollars that it can save the healthcare system when someone's using a CGM, limiting the complications of type 2 diabetes, improvement in their health, all of those things hit the bar of what we feel a payer would pay for. And so it's really just about generating the right evidence in this group. And launching the product is actually one of the ways we're going to do that. Generating real world evidence in a large population and show the benefits. If we have to do a randomized control trial like we did for the basal population, we'll do it. We're just not sure that that's necessarily going to be required in this population. So one of the things that we recognize is the importance of access to CGM and making sure people who can benefit from it get it. We'll continue to drive forward on making sure advocacy is there as well as the evidence.
I always like when a device is not a number, but is a name, right? And this is your first name. We have, G5, G6, G7. What is Stelo? What does that mean? Why Stelo? Right back to our conversation. But first, Diabetes Connections is sponsored by Gvoke HypoPen. Gvoke HypoPen is a ready-to-use rescue pen for treating very low blood sugar in people with diabetes ages 2 and above. If you take insulin or sulfonylureas, you're at risk for your blood sugar going too low. Low blood sugar emergencies can happen unexpectedly, and they demand quick action. You need a safety net when it matters most. Be ready to treat very low blood sugar with Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more Go to GvokeGlucagon.com/Stacey. That's GvokeGlucagon.com/STACEY. Gvoke shouldn't be used if you have a tumor in the gland on top of your kidneys called pheochromocytoma, or if you have a tumor in your pancreas called insulinoma. Visit GvokeGlucagon.com/risk for safety information.
Yeah, it was a really fun journey to go through naming a product. It was, like you said, it's our first time. I mean, originally we named this products, the engineers, we got to name them, and it was, generation 1, 2, 3, G7, 7th generation. So this is a really fun journey. And Stelo, the word means stem in Italian, but what it signifies is resilience and progress and growth. And so we really are excited about that being a brand new brand for us. And so, it's Stelo by Dexcom. Still has all the, kind of performance reliability everyone expects from us. But it is a different product, different design for this new population. And so we're excited to bring it out. You kind of probably saw in some of the slides we produced, has a different color scheme. We hope that it brings that growth, support, resilience to our users and their diabetes.
And this might be a dumb question, but I know my audience and people are going to try to work whatever they can work. You can't use it as you would use a G7. In other words, it won't work with pumps, stuff like that, but it will work as a standalone CGM. It just won't give you the alerts and alarms that you're used to.
Yeah, you got it. That's exactly right. Yep. It gives you real-time data. It doesn't have connectivity to insulin pumps or any of the, like you mentioned, the alerts and alarms, but it is a accurate ICGM level performance product.
Oh, great. I just asked because, sometimes when you're looking for backup plans, insurance falls through, things happen, right? It's good to know. So with the remaining time we have, let's talk about people who use insulin, and let's talk about the G6, the G7, and all that good stuff. This is really not a question for you, but I will ask it because my audience asked me too. And that is any insight on Omnipod interoperability and integration?
The project's gone really well. And I know that they're kind of in the final stages of getting ready to launch that. They're the ones who kind of control the actual launch timing and which countries in what order. But yeah, kind of our level of support there has been strong, and can't wait to see, get that into users' hands. We're supporting a lot of customers today on G6 who are using the various AID systems. Tandem's in the middle of doing their upgrade to G7. We're excited about that. And, one thing, just want to assure everyone, G6 will be around for as long as it needs to be to support everyone that needs access to it. But, ultimately we'll be moving to G7 when everybody's covered.
We are still on G6 because Benny is waiting till summertime to do all the big switcheroo. We did the update though, so it's all good. And then with Tandem, I did get a couple questions about connectivity. Again, we don't use the G7 yet. I know this has been something you've talked about before. Are you working on, I guess, either making it better or any tips about that?
Yeah, so we actually did do a pretty significant enhancement to the Bluetooth on G7. We started actually cutting it into the factories in the summertime, actually. We're shipping it across all channels now and all geographies. And it was an enhancement around antenna performance and also connectivity. So when a connectivity is dropped between the mobile app and the G7, it basically can reconnect within a minute, where it used to sometimes take 5 minutes to reconnect, or 5 minutes. You basically get back to that data faster if you do lose Bluetooth connectivity over distance. And so big enhancement there. And that's actually the device that Tandem used for all their validations. So that's the one that they're compatible with, is this new version that's pretty much available everywhere now. That was a really important improvement across both for Tandem and for us.
Another question about longer use for G7.
Yeah, longer use.
Stelo is 15 days. So I assume you guys are still working towards longer use of G7.
We do. We intend to bring 15-day sensor wear across our whole portfolio. We have a pretty high bar for the level of performance required to ensure that users get the experience we want. I mean, today G7 can go for up to 15 days for more than, a lot of people, but there are a lot of people that it wouldn't in its current form. And so we've been working on new technology with the sensor probe. It's in clinical studies right now, assessing the performance to basically extend sensor life reliably across a large population of users. It's super important to us. We know that our customer satisfaction, retention on our product, a lot of that is based on the reliability of the product. And so the last thing we'd want to do is extend sensor wear without it really reliably lasting. We do have a different perspective on it than others in terms of what we consider reliable performance out to the full sensor wear. We're working hard to make sure that we exceed our customers' expectations.
I got a question. I'm not familiar with this product, but I will ask anyway. Android Auto. I guess this is like Apple CarPlay.
Yeah.
How are we doing for our folks with Android?
So that I know that's on the roadmap of things to develop. I don't know where it is in level priority. The way I get asked this often, so I think good thing to cover is the way that we prioritize features is primarily based on user feedback. So what's the most important thing for the users to get implemented? And then based on our cadence of releases, we just basically throw it in prioritization wise. Apple Watch is a good example of something we've been working on for quite a while. There's been a team dedicated to it, and we've finally got to the point where we're really comfortable with that feature and being able to function as intended. And so we submitted it, and we'll be launching it soon on the G7 platform. So I don't have any dates for auto on Android, but I know it's one of the requested features that we have in what we call the backlog, which is the list of things we want to do.
That's, I'm sure, is a long list.
It is a long list. And one of the things that we do internally debate a lot is the order in which we need to do the implementation. We have gotten a lot better with the speed at which we can do it. G7, last year we did 9 software releases. We're going to continue to do a bunch this year with further enhancements because, we've made these investments in our software team for that exact purpose, to be able to produce more software faster and bring out more cool features.
What about recycling of the product? I mean, G7 is smaller. Stelo is smaller than the G6, so less plastic. But at the same time, I think folks would really love a recycling option.
Yeah, I think just sustainability in general and environmental footprint, it was one of the things that we focused on for G7 in terms of making it smaller. You can see the packaging is dramatically smaller, the device is smaller. There's the disposable nature of things like needles and insertion devices, but we do have projects underway to further and reduce the environmental footprint of the product. We don't have any plans right now for a recycling program. It is something we've evaluated, but at this point in time, it's really our main focus is let's figure out to lower the footprint of the device and continue to make it smaller.
Yeah, we just went on a trip and I was thinking of Benny. I was like, you sure you don't want to switch over? Because these things are so much smaller.
They are a lot smaller.
Packing the G6, although packing the G5, that was fun too years ago.
It's been an evolution. You've been on the journey with us.
So, I have to ask you about Direct to Watch, which was also announced at ADA, would be submitted by end of year.
Yeah, it's submitted. It's under review. That review's going great. And we're really excited to get it out as soon as it gets approved. The main development there was ensuring that alerts and alarms worked reliably on the watch platform when you stepped away from your phone. There was a lot of complexity to that kind of under the hood. We don't want the user to see the complexity, but really ensuring that accurate alerts are there because you're relying on them, right? That's what keep a user safe. And that we needed to make sure that those were reliable. And we've got to the point now on the platform that we validated that they are. Can't wait to bring it out. It's been a long time coming.
Very interesting. All right. That's great to hear. I know Dexcom probably wants to work with as many different pump companies as possible. How are things going for you over in Europe? Are there other companies that we don't have here? I know there's like Ipsomed and APS, excuse me. Can you talk a little bit, I guess, about the international scope?
You're absolutely right. We do want to support users' choice and provide the best CGM for their system. We've always had this approach of being open and non-exclusive with pumps. And so wanting to ensure that whether you tubeless pump, depending on what algorithm you want, we just brought Beta Bionics on as a new partner, both G6 and now G7. That is our philosophy, user choice, giving them the best sensor for their AID system. When you go outside the US, you're right. There's some other players. There's CAM, APS, as you mentioned, as well as Diabloop's another one. And they're using different pumps. There's Roche pumps in the mix there. There's Ipsomed pumps in the mix there. We actually have a partnership with Ipsomed too to be able to provide data within their ecosystem outside of CAM APS. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of innovation going on in the space, and we're like to be the sensor choice. So trying to ensure that we're the best partner for them, as well as the best sensor for their users.
And then just before I let you go, I'll give you an open-ended one again. You have been with Dexcom since what, 2004?
Yeah, I'm celebrating my 20th anniversary.
Hey, wonderful. Well, congratulations. So my question is, what do you, Jake, what do you want to get done at Dexcom that just hasn't been done? I know that's a long to-do list and there's a lot of good stuff happening, but what's your thing? What's your project?
I'm passionate about a lot of things at Dexcom, but the thing I'm the most passionate about is getting access to the CGM for more people. We currently serve a very small portion of the world that has diabetes. Obviously, the US is the most advanced in terms of the number of people that they cover. Insurance companies will cover, but there are so many people around the globe that could benefit from CGM. And so continuing to do what it takes to be able to get CGM to more people that can benefit. It is a life-changing technology and people deserve to have access to it. And so it's up to us to figure out how to make that happen. That's what I'm most passionate about, but I'm also extremely excited about continuing to make the best CGM possible. When we started developing our first products, it was about solving this really hard problem of making an accurate and reliable glucose sensor. And that was our focus for many years, just trying to get rid of finger sticks. But now, as we've started to see the impact that CGM can have beyond just replacing finger sticks, it's incredible. And, the sky's the limit. We still have, we invest really significantly in our sensor R&D and our software and all of the components of our system, and aren't going to stop that anytime soon. We really want to continue to invest in this technology.
Terrific. Well, congrats on 20 years. That's fabulous. And I really appreciate your time always. Thanks so much, Jake.
Yeah, thanks, Stacey.
You're listening to Diabetes Connections with Stacey Sims.
More information, as always, in the show notes. Head over to diabetes-connections.com and just click on recent episodes, and you will find this one there. I am really interested to learn more about Stelo and see how the type 2 community embraces it, uses it. I know more and more people, my husband, other family members who have type 2 who do not use insulin, who are trying out CGM. And they have, as I mentioned to Jake, they have different experiences with it. So I think there's a lot of education that is needed here, much as education was needed when CGM started coming into the type 1 community in the early days. And frankly, I don't think there's enough education now. But that's not really on Dexcom. I mean, that's just our healthcare system and our poor, overworked endocrinologists. All right, where am I going? Let's talk about something more fun. Where am I going next? I'm actually going to a non-diabetes event, imagine that, at the end of the month, going to talk about podcasting to students at Syracuse University and hang out with my amazing, fun radio friends from college. We have a reunion, our college radio station, WJPZ, the greatest media classroom. So that should be a really fun weekend. March 23rd, I will be in Boston. I am the co-keynote speaker along with Carrie Sparling at the One Nation Summit there. April 5th and 6th, I'm going to be in Virginia for Friends for Life Falls Church, one of their great regional conferences. Also using that as an excuse to see Benny because he goes to college right near there. And then the following weekend, April 12th and 13th, is Mom's Night Out, Chicago. Busy couple of weeks ahead, busy year ahead. There's lots more on the calendar. I have a whole community page on diabetes-connections.com. That's where you can kind of keep track of where I'm going. It's also where I have the presentations that I do. If you want to see what I can speak about, I'm always happy to make up a new presentation or talk to your group about something specific if you prefer. Okay, thank you as always to my editor, John Buchanan from Audio Editing Solutions. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Stacey Sims. I'll see you back here soon. Until then, be kind to yourself.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.
As you are managing life with diabetes, Edgepark is here to support you on your health journey. Discover convenience and peace of mind with Edgepark, your trusted supplier in diabetes management supplies. Edgepark has a wide variety of pump and CGM solutions from top brands to fit your unique needs. Plus, Edgepark works with most insurance companies and handles the paperwork to navigate insurance complexities for you and make the ordering process as seamless as possible. You work hard to manage your diabetes. Let Edgepark take care of the rest. Go to diabetes-connections.com and click on the Edgepark logo to learn more.